And here we go. All right, welcome to the Brian Carroll Show. I'm starting to figure this Zoom stuff out, so this is getting to be fun. Brian, how are you?
Well, I'm doing well. We were 104 degrees here today, and I did get out to the post office and mail off some paperwork to get us on the ballot in Indiana. So it was worth going out in the heat.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite so hot here, but sometimes it feels that way. It's been mild for weeks and weeks, and then it hits 85 one day, and you go outside and you think that you're in the desert, or actually more like Florida, because it's been really humid here as well. So we've had several rainstorms and such, but overall, I can't complain. It's been, nice to go out and get out of the house. Things are, Illinois is the kind of next phase, they call it phase 3 opening is tomorrow. So I'm going to be able to go out and enjoy a round of golf and not, have just one person to play with. There'll be foursomes. They still have some distancing. Well, the distancing rules on golf courses are pretty easy to work with, but with carts and people and tee boxes and so forth. So I'm kind of excited.
I have had a pretty easy quarantine. My wife and I have been very comfortable. And when we've needed to go out, we've been able to go out. We both made masks, and we social distance, and we're maybe getting out once a week for groceries or something. But it has not been hard on us at all.
That's good. That's good to hear. So I'm going to give people a couple of minutes here to catch wind of the Facebook Live, which takes a second. It'll pop up. It's a notification that we're live. And so there might be dropping in for a viewing so we can premiere the Brian Carroll for President video commercial. So it's actually going to be eventually streamed out in different ad placements. But for now, it's just the excitement of having a next stage in the process, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So before I go into that and we talk about the commercial, I do want to ask you, Brian, have you cast your ballot in California?
I'm going to wait till Saturday.
Okay.
In California, we're very fortunate to have 5 good candidates for 4 positions. And I know that I'm voting for Desmond and Skylar that I have really good relationships with. And then I'm still trying to pick 2 out of 3 for the other strong candidates. I'm excited to see what we've got.
Yes, and we're going to definitely talk about the delegate convention and kind of pick your brain on what your thoughts are. I mean, we're both outsiders in the delegate process, but not really completely outsiders, as a lot of our mission going forward will be dependent on what the good men and women of the convention decide. So we have some follow-up questions for you in a couple of minutes here. I think we've waited long enough. I'm going to queue up this commercial here. Give me a second to do that. And I'm going to actually mute myself. Okay, let's see if this works. One more try.
Are you tired of choosing the lesser of two evils? Vote for someone who has spent a lifetime living your values. The sanctity of life, from conception until natural death. Social justice and economic fairness for all people. Care for the environment. Promotion of a more peaceful world. Seeking the common good on common ground through common sense. This is what the American Solidarity Party is all about. Join us and vote for Brian Carroll for President of the United States of America.
All right. Brian, I'm going to let you share your thoughts.
Well, it's exciting to see us reach a new level of especially the professionalism of this video. So I'm excited to see what we've got, wondering what's coming next.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to thank Eric Schenkel. I'm not sure if he's here and watching tonight, but he reached out to me and had the idea and basically had the script ready and proposed it. And I said, God bless you. Let's take a look and see what you can get. And that's what he came back with. I remember my daughter was sitting next to me, and when I played it, I just said, wow. And she said, what? And I showed it to her and she said, wow, also. So that was a lot of fun. The version with the subtitles that we'll use in ad placements is what the consultant told us, that a lot of people will watch, trailers or things in a banner and won't have their sound on, or like they're on their phone or something. So that's working with your voiceover and the paid for by the Solidarity Party to elect Brian Carroll. That's also working. So I'm going to actually ask Jeffrey Combs to add your voiceover and the disclaimer to that one as well, and we'll have two good ones. One for this kind of display effect where people have their sound on, and then one for ad placement. So that's very exciting, and I see some people have responded in the chat. So that's
it has been fun working with Eric and producing this one, and I hope to produce with him some more.
Absolutely. All right, so going back to the delegate election, now that we've had that fun, I want to talk about how significant do you think it is that California, Pennsylvania, and Texas have broken off into their own elections? Like how big of a deal do you think that's going to be for those states going forward into state development?
Well, I hope they're just the beginning of a long line of states. For California, I first joined the party in time for our original state convention in August of 2016. And there were 11 of us there at the meeting, and came up with some bylaws and elected officers. And so this has been a 4-year process, and it's exciting to arrive. I've worked some with the Texas committee. I was in Texas in October and met some of the people, and I've gotten to know others online, and they've got a strong team. So it's exciting to see them achieve this. I did touch down in Pennsylvania on the way to the Ohio meeting at the end of August. And I've worked with Matthew Bartko very closely. And so I'm real pleased, especially for him, because I know what an enormous amount of work he's put into it. And I hope to see some other states following, not this year, obviously, but very quickly getting set up with their committees and reaching a point where they've got enough members to have their own delegation. I think that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Absolutely. I want to explain it really quickly how the math behind the process works, just so that people understand that if next year certain states that broke free, that had 3 delegates this year, don't have their own delegation, like why that could occur. It's possible that that actually could occur. And so the process that we put in place with the new bylaws was basically getting a count of all of the voting members and then trying to find, and really this is a trial and error situation. Over time, we'll probably figure out what a good size for a convention is for our current needs and the needs going forward. So obviously conventions can grow, and if you look at the major parties, they have 1,000-person conventions, and it's very appropriate for them. But right now, like for what our delegates would decide and what they're going to work on, the working environment, if we get into a situation where you can have an in-person convention, obviously things can change. But what we did was we took the total list of voting members, which is probably around 800, and we have to designate a ratio that will give us the appropriate number of delegates that we're shooting for. Okay, and I don't remember exactly what the ratio was. Patrick Harris looked at the numbers, kind of picked a ratio, played with how that would go with all of the states, and that was back pretty far back. Like, you think March wasn't that far in the past, but it has to be decided, I think, 90 days before the convention. So the process to get the word out and get delegate candidates and all that can begin. And so once that happened, we just so happened to have a lot of growth this year. It's being a presidential election year. And so as the number of voting members started to increase around the country, and one of the things that you have to understand as well is that it's going to always happen this way to a certain extent. So we might have to tweak that ratio. But I sent out several emails for people to renew, because a lot of people renewed around this time last year before the election process of 2019. So their voting membership would expire and they wouldn't be counted, in the rolls. So basically, long story short, if several states grow in size and Pennsylvania, California, Texas don't particularly grow in their voting membership, we don't want to have 70 people at the convention. But if we have multiple states to get to 3, and it doesn't take long, like 30 states would get you to 90 if we had 30 states with 3 delegates. So it's not a penalty, but it's kind of it's a fun bonus. And I think what I've really been pushing the people in those states is, take advantage of that, at least in this year, is contact your people, use it as a great uplifting moment, as you said, that you've arrived in those states, because you have that ownership now of that local, of your delegates, right? Your constituency is very clear. You know who you're responsible to, and the voters can reach out to those delegates and say, hey, you're representing me. This is what I would like to see, and whether or not the delegate votes that way, that's entirely up to them. That's kind of how our representative process is going to work going forward. So I'm excited. All right, Brian. So the question I have for you, what message do you have for the candidates who do not get chosen by the voters?
Well, there's still a lot of places to plug in, especially in the state organizations. Every one of our states needs more active people. And I would guess, obviously not being a delegate, I can't promise this, but I'm going to guess that the party is moving towards maybe some committees that would look into individual issues. I've just been talking some with the group in Nebraska, and they have some individuals that are really interested in healthcare. And so they're talking about putting together maybe a Zoom meeting for the Nebraska delegation, for the people and members of the party in Nebraska, and especially focus on healthcare. Well, that's the kind of thing we need. There's lots of issues that need people who are interested in that particular issue to focus some attention on it and come up with some answers that the rest of us can draw on. So between the state committees and issue committees, and we've already got the different people working on different pages uh, for different things and the newsletter. There's lots of places to plug in. I think several states this year are still looking for electors for the electoral college. And we will need people to pass petitions if that ever opens up enough that we can actually do that. There's lots of things that need to be done, lots of places that people can plug in and use their talents. And I think in the process, come up with some satisfaction to know that they've helped along the way.
All right, thank you. What message do you have for the winners of the delegate seats?
Well, again, I have not been on a delegate to a convention, but I did poke my nose in a little bit last time when they were working on the new platform, and I just was kind of a silent observer. And again, there's a lot of hard work there, and more power to you. I hope I'll be praying for you and hope you come up with something good.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and people have said, you know, being magnanimous in victory, to listen to the people who didn't get the seat, but have you know, looked to supply some leadership to the party, that their voices and the energies, as you put, you know, to plug in, have a supporting role. You know, you won't have a voting role necessarily, but it's like currently the party at large, where there's a national committee, you don't have a voting seat in the national committee, but you know, many people reach out to talk to me about ideas that they have, and you know, what I would be able to do at the national committee level, or other members of the national committee that have brought in people's concerns. So, you know, that there is a process to that, and it's always good. And here you are as a person that's not on the national committee or as a delegate, but our candidates are definitely going to have very influential roles as well. So people can plug into the party in that way and be very influential with what happens to our future. So I really do agree with the idea. It's hard work, but it's worth it. And, you know, there's so much to do that, you know, we wish them well and good luck and prayers for sure. Okay, so the big thing for today, it's going to take most of the time, and I think it's probably the most exciting stuff, is after the election's over, we are moving towards the national convention. And so the question I have for you is, for the national convention, you know, we're going to work hard from now until then. We being you and I, the delegates, will have their business to do. Perhaps some of the candidates who don't get a seat could be part of this, but to get something to launch, right? We haven't officially decided on a motto. I think things have been thrown around. Do you remember any of those mottos, Brian?
You know, I had to come up with something on the spur of the moment when I did the I Side With, and my mind froze up. All I could think of was the word life. And so I'd like to modify that, but definitely the word life has to be in it, because that's the center, the central idea behind all of our work. And so I've kicked around 2 or 3 things with the word life in it, and I'm still not quite satisfied.
Okay, yeah, and I know when we were discussing this earlier, you know, solidarity forever obviously is an old slogan. Standing together kind of implies the same thing. And someone suggested that they would have like a picture of us, you know, back to back or something. I think, did we take that picture in Chicago when you were here?
The 2 of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, we took that picture, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, the idea of standing together in solidarity, I think that's something that could be done. Nothing that has to be decided, but, you know, those kind of things are high energy items that I think we could leverage going into the convention. So definitely a lot of work that we're going to put in. And I wanted to get more specific, and I think this is where our discussion will lead towards. And that is, there's certain topics, and I broke them down for us, that I think people all should be aware of, that there are things, you know, that they have to figure out. What is my skill set? Where can I really help? And there's just so many things to do that lots of places for help are available. Ballot access. Okay, so what are your thoughts currently with I mean, you talked about states opening up and you know, people being able to get signatures, but just the overall process.
Well, we are hampered a little bit because we can't get out and do the kind of door-to-door or gatherings that normally would happen in an election year like this. But we're making progress, and I think we've got several states that have set themselves some pretty ambitious goals. Like I mentioned Nebraska, because I've been messaging with the folks there, and they 500 signatures by August, I think, and that's a really stiff challenge, and it's exciting to see people taking that on. Other states as well that have, some of them have much easier goals, lower numbers. We are already, I think, completed the process in Vermont because we were helped. They went ahead and changed their rules and said, well, okay, this year we won't require signatures. And we're hoping that a couple other states maybe will get around to doing that too. But we still think that we're either going to be on the ballot in several states, Colorado and Louisiana, and Florida, and the progress is being made. The deadlines to get on the ballot are in most states in late July or August or even into September. So we've got time to complete the process. But we can maybe be on the ballot in 10 or 12 states. That was our kind of original goal, and be writing candidates in another 30 or so. And so we're still on the track to be pretty successful, I think.
Yeah, you know, my opinion on ballot access has kind of changed a little bit because of a lot of the loosening of regulations. So, I mean, Illinois generally is a very difficult state to work with in terms of ballot access. But even here, we went from a 25,000 signature threshold to 2,500. And I have the benefit of, you know, living in Illinois. So I think that should be pretty doable just through my own network of contacts that could commit to me. And I could probably call, you know, 25 people up and beg them for 100 signatures. And I think they would probably come through. Got to probably shoot for 35 or 4,500, right, to be safe because of lawyers nitpicking out people's signatures. But, you know, I think that still is open for a lot of states where, especially the states that have kept their people under stay-at-home orders. So it's an exciting time. One of the questions that did come in from my poll that I put out on Google Forms was, will you have a website? Which is funny because we were just discussing that the other day. So we will have a website ready at some point, probably around the convention time. After the election's over, we're going to be switching to some website issues in the web team. And there'll be hopefully a website that will have the states, the requirements, our current status, and if there are contact people with their permission, their contact information, right? Some way to get in touch with them and see if you can help, because that's going to be a big part of this. The rest of this discussion is, you know, getting to a place where we can accommodate the help, because that's, in my opinion, something that we don't have an infrastructure for. Right. And there's two kinds of help that we'll talk about in a couple minutes. So let me actually grab that. Oh, I'm back. So when I say getting help, right, there's all kinds of wonderful people. Brian, I mean, it warms my heart when people reach out and say, hey, what can I do? What can I do? What are your thoughts on like the passion of volunteers?
The little bit of travel I was able to do before this thing locked down, I met some really neat people. And I think probably if I was to sum up my 3.5 year experience with the party is that I have, the party is just full of neat people. And it would be wonderful if we can get the point where we can have some more face-to-face meetings. But these Zoom meetings are actually pretty good. And we have so many people who really believe in what we are putting forth in our platform. We have so many people that are totally committed to a whole life position and to the environmental and justice and other aspects of our platform. And they're just totally dedicated. And I am constantly amazed at the new people I'm meeting.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's heartwarming when you see a lot of people who will immediately respond to something, to a call to action, and sometimes I'm not quite ready for it. I'll get a bunch of emails saying, "Hey, what can I do? What can I do?" And that's kind of one thing that I do want people to understand, that there has to be a systematic way to accommodate new people. And so after this election's over, we're going to have the announcements. Probably we'll have a Zoom thing on next Wednesday. I think the election ends Tuesday at midnight in your time. But after that, my goal will be to work with state leadership and try to come up with a plan that we can model to all states. And so when people start joining, and again, hopefully, right, as the campaign moves from the convention into the summer months and into the fall, we've already seen many people reach out to the campaign email or to the party saying, "Hey, what can I do?" But you can't answer all those emails. If we get 100 people, that's too many for you to answer. We're hoping that we get 1,000 people that get excited and want to reach out to you. So to have a process that we can get volunteers into places where they're happy, where they feel fulfilled and like they're doing something important. That's what we need. And I think, the best volunteers, and I will take every volunteer, the best volunteer is a volunteer, someone's passionate. But someone who can come in and say, when they say, "What can I do?" I say, "Can you just do this?" And they say, "Okay, I got it." And then they're gone and they come back with a finished product. I mean, not everyone can do that, and it's totally understandable. But if you feel like you can do that, one of the things I think you're on the same page with me is, as long as you have an open heart, open mind, you bring to us a product and you're okay with some critiques, that would be the best way to move the whole machine forward, is to say, "I got this, what do you think?" And then be open to some suggestions. Because
Can I tell a little story?
oh yeah, that's the best when you do.
When I was 14, or maybe even 13, and I was on the junior high school newspaper. And that was the year that Nelson Rockefeller, governor of New York, was running against Barry Goldwater for the Republican nomination. And Rockefeller came to Los Angeles, and my mother got an invitation to a reception up at the country club, and she didn't want to go. So I went and went through the reception line. And then standing off to the side, I was talking to a guy from a newspaper, and he had a little press pass. I told him I was from the junior high paper. So he took the pass off and he gave it to me, and I put it on my suit. And I waited till the very end, and I was the last person to go through the line. I went through a second time so that there was nobody behind me, and I could take the time to ask Governor Rockefeller some questions. And I asked him, "What can somebody like me, a teenager, can't vote, what can I do to help?" And he said, "Get down to headquarters and volunteer to lick stamps on envelopes." So there's something for everybody to do. We don't have quite as much mail going out today, but we've still got lots of other things, little things that need to be done, that people can pitch in and do it. And that's where they start the experience, gaining the experience where someday they will be a candidate, or they will be state chairmans, or they will be a delegate to our convention, or, it all starts somewhere with some early training. And the way you do it is you show up and say, hey, what can I do?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I had a slide ready for that. That one of the things that we definitely need is clerical help. And you said there's not that much mailing, but I mean, there's certain things that just have to be mailed, especially in a campaign. So today someone reached out and says, hey, I need bumper stickers. And I happen to have some bumper stickers left over from our March for Life Chicago. Bumper magnets, actually, even better. They don't stick to your car. You can take them off. They do come off in a car wash, though, we found out. So you may want to remember that. But so I have these bumper magnets, and I do want to mail them out. But the time that would take for me would kill probably a day or two with the 100 magnets I have. So I'm going to enlist the efforts of my daughter, who just graduated high school, and because of the situation, she's not going to be able to have a summer job like she planned. So I might just give her some money to do some clerical work. But if and when this takes off in states around the country, we want people to have bumper magnets and bumper stickers and flyers, buttons, hats, whatever we want to have. And it can't be centralized. I mean, it'd be ideal to have someone in California be the clerical person, and I can ship them a box of, well, it won't be me, but the next national committee can, or it could be from our campaign, but ship them a box of goodies and a big stack of stamps and a box of envelopes and whatever, and say, can you please get this out to these addresses? And all they need to do is write out envelopes and put things in there. But you think of it as a simple task, and it's not unimportant. It is very critical that those things take place, because more than anything else, that human element, that physical presence of a bumper magnet, is worth so much when you saw two Brian Carroll bumper magnets on the road, you probably can shake your head and maybe scratch your head and go, what was that? And then another one would drive by, then, you might take some notice, because people would be like, wait, I should look that up, because that's something. So that's a great story. And I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. The next topic that I think that we should touch base with has to do with something that people have brought up pretty often recently, and that is fundraising. Okay, so you did see, if you were here early on, you did see our video that we'll use for ad placement. But you want to, Brian, you want to talk about like a cyclic process to fundraising?
Well, you put your advertising out in hopes that it will bring both name recognition and new people into the party, and convince some voters, and hopefully it will also bring in some new funds to perpetuate and run the ad again. And that's a process that is not my specialty. I'm glad that there are some people in the party that are doing that, and we need more of that.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with fundraising for us in this situation is so much fundraising is often done at the local level, with a dinner, a meet and greet with the candidate or the candidate staff. If you were traveling around the country barnstorming, we'd be able to have big celebrations and some ticket items or whatever that would follow you. But now it'll be micro donations through online links. And so, that's just the way it's going to be, but nothing gets done without fundraising. And, you saw the video. I mean, we want to put more videos like that, issues-based videos. We want to be able to make those and place those to have different ideas, out there. Our ideas, combating what the main party candidates are going to be talking about all summer, and give people a different perspective. So it's critical to the mission. Okay, so then the next item for business is graphics and marketing. So, this is kind of an outreach to people who have these skills. They're specialized skills. They're, when I talk to someone who has a good background, Sam Quinan, I actually talked to him today, who designed the Brian Carroll logo. I mean, he starts talking and you can see the passion that he has for his craft, and being an artist essentially, talking about color schemes and fonts and things like that. And as a layman, as a newbie, I listen and go, you really know your stuff. I'll just, whatever you say, I'm not going to argue with you, because that is a special talent.
I have the same kind of faith in Sam. I have just been thrilled with everything he's done.
Yeah, and when someone like that volunteers their time, I mean, I kind of feel bad, because I'd like to be able to do contract work for their skills, but all donations of monetary donations are great, but those are significant donations of time and skill that don't necessarily get registered in our bottom line, but we're very, very, very grateful for. And the marketing side, taking those graphics and being able to look at data, right? So I'm talking to a consultant right now, and taking, he said, get me a video and we'll talk about how I would propose doing marketing. And, the words that came out of his mouth, they were all English words. They were rationally connected in a sentence. Some of them were mathematical, so I kind of knew what those words were, but just the concept that how much of a depth of knowledge they have of that process, the psychology that goes into it, the business side aspects, and then the technology nowadays. So if I think Brian would agree that if you have these skills and you're willing to connect with us. Brian, your thought?
Oh yeah. We don't have a lot of money to work with, but I think the figure I saw, if we had gone out commercially to hire somebody to do the video that Eric Schenkel put together for us, it would have been about $5,000. That's before you paid to put it into a single market. And so when Eric volunteered or Sam volunteered with all the graphics, that's a major contribution to our campaign.
Right, and I have to thank, some people have commented very positively on the new Facebook banner. Jeffrey Combs put that together. I got him some pictures, and that kind of stuff is eye-catching, and it's attractive, and I think people respond to it. So if you've got those skills and you're willing to offer some time and talent, we would definitely treasure that. So
absolutely.
All right. And then the final thing I have for tonight, and then we'll wrap up with Brian's final thoughts, and I do thank everyone for being here, is, and we kind of, you touched on it, Brian, in your story about, when you were in junior high, I think it was, right?
Yeah, and I wrote it up for the junior high paper, and that was my introduction to politics.
Yeah, I think writing, people who can write, people who can edit, I should have put editing on there because it's equally as important. These people are invaluable because you can't write everything that needs to be coming from you. You can create videos, an audio script, but if you had to come up with everything that Brian Carroll is going to be responsible for in this election cycle, you would just be writing all day and not getting other important things done. So, some ghostwriting, some editing skills be very important as the website comes to fruition, as we want to have kind of constant news being put out onto the website, more, our marketing tools like pamphlets and brochures and, issues-based brochures. So this will be a big thing for post, kind of preparing through the convention, but having ready to kind of bounce into the summer months. So those of you who have writing and editing, we need you. We implore you to come out, just like Brian is a young man. Maybe you've got junior high, high school, college age kids who are aspiring writers.
And there are so many new medias that weren't around when I was a kid. We have Jeremy Miller, who is coming up with a new meme, it seems like every week or so. And we have a couple other people who've contributed memes. When I was growing up, we didn't have memes. That's something that I had to go back and look it up and say, where did that word come from? And it's only been around in its current use for less than 30 years. So there's all these new things that people are in, and younger generations are not even on Facebook. They're going other places. And we want to reach all the different age groups. We want to reach every different demographic, which means that we have members of the party who would like to contribute, and they live in some of those other medium. And they know how to approach it. They know the signals, and they know the language of the particular medium. And so we need people that will go into those other areas that I'm not experienced with, and lead the way, and just step in and say, here I am, let me help. And we can say, go to it.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I was looking for in that answer. So I think the final thing is I'm going to leave it to you if you want to give your parting thoughts as we take a break, basically, from now until the National Convention at the end of June. I think we'll be in a preparation mode unless something comes up and you want to have a Brian Carroll show at some point in there that's going to be published. I think we'll be recording stuff, and so that we can release items here and there. I want to chop up like your videos in the past. I mean, those longer videos I think are great. Some people really do enjoy them, but I want to make some more kind of fast and quick. Here's Brian's take on the, what they call it now, Brian, it's called a hot take when you have, a quick message.
I'm sorry, I've got a phone ringing over here. Ignore it.
Okay. All right. I'll just mute you for a second. So we'll let the phone stop ringing, and Brian is going to share his final thoughts. And what I would say to people, if you haven't voted, we do have that website. I know that some people said that they didn't have all the information. You can do your best. Reach out to people in your own areas. Perhaps you can contact them through Facebook or some other medium as well. All right, Brian, you're back for your final thoughts.
Well, when I look at where we are and what we've accomplished already, and compare it to where we were in 2016 with Matern and Munoz, in 2016, I did not even hear about the party until August, after the Republican and Democratic conventions. And I said, nothing good can come out of this election. It's time to start looking ahead to something for next time. And I poked around and I found the Solidarity Party, but that was August. And we were just barely getting started. The people who are already in the party had started things, but nothing had gone very far. And we managed in a very short amount of time. I don't know the other states, but in California, we had to come up with 56 electors, I think, on short notice. And that was our major effort. And we had no media presence at all. We had no literature to pass out. We had nothing. And that was the end of August. And we did in California manage to come up with about 1,400 votes on very short notice. And now I look at what we've got in place already at the end of May. We are so far ahead of where we were. And so the real excitement will still come after the other two parties have had their conventions. We were very fortunate to have ours planned far enough ahead of time that we could finish ours and move on from there. The Libertarian Party just had theirs this last week. So we're way ahead of some of the others, and we're using the time. And so I'm excited to see how far ahead of where we were last time we are this time. And we have more members. We have still probably will add a lot of new members in the coming months as more and more attention is paid to the campaign. More and more people are going to be looking for us, and we just need to be ready to be there so that when they're looking for us, they can find us, and that we can be attractive to them. And every day I see new people coming in, new people joining, new people showing up on our pages and commenting and offering advice. And it's an exciting process to see. And it's not going to end in November. November is just the intermediate goal. The goal is to have a party that's ready to move into the next election cycle and not have to start from scratch. So I see that happening, and I'm in a unique position maybe to, well, you are too. You can see it. Maybe the average member of the party is not in a position to get the feeling, to see the people showing up state after state after state. And it may be, New York will say, welcome to our new members. And they've got 6 new members. And Georgia will say, welcome to our new members. And they've got 3 new members. And other states are, welcoming new members to their Facebook page. And we're in a position where, we can see it happening. And it's not in just 3 here or 6 there. It's, we're seeing dozens coming in every week across the country. And that's exciting. It's very gratifying to see that. And people that come in are excited. They feel liberated. They no longer have to vote for the lesser of 2 evils. And that's a freedom that people really feel it to their bones. And it's exciting to be a part of that and to know that we're not just building for November, we're building beyond November. And we are becoming a movement that can make some serious changes in this country.
Thank you, Brian, for your final thoughts. I do appreciate everyone for watching on Facebook or being present in the webinar. And like I said, the election goes until June 2nd, 11:59 in the Pacific time zone. It'll end, and then on June 3rd, the ballot counting team or the election team will start counting the ballots, and hopefully we'll be able to have a webinar that evening to release the results. So, between now, have a good weekend, Brian, and take care. And I'm sure we'll be in touch, before the weekend's out.
Within a few minutes, I think.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Brian and I are going to be at the Utah State Convention for the ASP. So that's exciting for states to have conventions. I think Illinois, we're planning on having at least an election during this time frame for the committee for next year. So, state chapter leaders, I would use this energy, contact your voting members, maybe even reach out to people who haven't signed up for the party yet, because there's just an energy. And I think there's going to be an energy from now until November. And it's up to us how we use it. And so thanks everyone for coming. And Brian, I'll see you shortly.
All righty.